You know, the United States of America was the greatest country before Trump, and it's the greatest country now after Trump. The white supremacists want to go back. They want to go back to the days when it was legal to own slaves.
You are about to be entertained by the ape, the young man who has become a legend in his own time. Come on, and I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Oh, yes, you can. Welcome, everybody. It's 7 o'clock on the proverbial dot. It's the Ron Kelly Talk Radio program, and it's on blogtalkradio.com, the RonKellyShow.com, Facebook, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. There's something going on with this thing. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not getting, the show is not announcing like it should. I have to look into that. But anyway, everybody, thanks so much. Thank you, and thank you for joining me today on the Ron Kelly Talk Radio program. Oh boy, lots going on. Of course, you know, the Trump-Harris, or Harris-Trump, I should say, campaigns, battle for supremacy goes on. Kamala Harris announced her deal, what she plans to do with the economy, the other day. So, okay, now she needs to get out there and talk more. You know, I was watching, matter of fact, it was a Republican pundit, Republican strategist. And he said that Kamala Harris should reach out more to black men. You know, and I agree with that. You know, I agree with that. I agree that Kamala Harris should reach out more to black men, because Kamala Harris is not doing so well amongst the brothers, you know. So I'm watching this program, and this Republican pundit, Republican strategist suggested that Kamala Harris should go on a barbershop tour, so to speak. And I, you know, who am I? But I thought it was a great idea. I thought that she should go on a little barbershop tour, maybe visit some barbershops, Chicago, you know, Detroit, LA, New York, you know, and I think she should do that. Because, you know, because the stigma of Kamala Harris being a district attorney of San Francisco, and the attorney general of the state of California still hangs over her, you know. And Kamala Harris is still being accused of putting lots of black men in prison. She still carries that stigma, and she's got to wash that off of herself somehow. And I think that she should reach out to black men, specifically to black men. Just the way she reached out to black women, she should reach out to black men, you know. And maybe she should stop in a barbershop or two or three, you know, when she's in these certain places. She's in Pennsylvania a lot, so maybe she can stop by, you know, barbershop in Philadelphia, or it'll be the safest barbershop in America if she walks in there. And she should do that. She should go into barbershops, you know, where black men, the barbershop is a community center. The barbershop is the brain trust for black men. You know, that's where we get all of our information, in the barbershop. Some of it terrible, like I've heard many times, and some of it intriguing. So I think that she should do that tour. I think she should go around to the barbershops and places where black men gather. And she should do that, and reach out more to the brothers, because she's going to need the black, not just the female vote, but she's going to need the black male vote. And, you know, and she's, again, the stigma, the stain of being an attorney general of the state of California and the San Francisco district attorney. Yeah, I mean, for lots of people, it would have been a badge of honor, but for her, in regards to the black community and for black men specifically, you know, they feel that she railroaded lots of black men and black people in general into prison. So great idea. She should reach out to black men uh, and do something, because she was quoted on an interview that said, and I heard her say it. It was her voice. I heard her say that she didn't want to propose legislation that only supported black people. And there's plenty of legislation that supports other ethnic groups. There's legislation that supports Jews. There's legislation that supports all different types, the whole rainbow, LGBTQ. All of these people have, legislation that's been proposed and or passed that works for them. A lot of the anti-Semitic, a lot of these laws have been passed to make being anti-Semitic tougher, to make hate crimes tougher, and it's specifically mostly for the Jewish community. I mean, let's keep it real here. And so people in different ethnic groups have had legislation passed specifically for them. So I don't see why black folks can't have legislation passed specifically for us. Okay, it's 7 minutes past the hour. It's the Ron Kelly Show. I'm not sure. I gotta look on Facebook, because I'm looking on Facebook and I don't see my handsome face on Facebook. So I gotta look and see what's going on here. I think it's a Ron Kelly Show. Let's see. Yeah, so I think that, that would be a great idea for her to go on to. I think it'd be a great idea to go on for her to go on to Okay, all right. Yeah, I see me on Facebook. I would imagine I'm on LinkedIn too. Somebody from LinkedIn holler at me. You can put a or somebody from Facebook, you can holler at me. You can go to the comments and you can say whatever it is you want to say. But yeah, so I think there'd be a good idea for Kamala Harris to reach out to black men, because again, the stigma of her being the district attorney, the city of San Francisco, and then going on to be attorney general of the state of California, the largest attorney general's office in the country. Kamala Harris ran for several years after she was the DA of San Francisco. And she's been accused of putting many black folks, specifically black men, in prison. She's been accused of that. So she needs to talk to black men to reassure them that that's not going to happen if she becomes the president of these here United States of America. So yes, good idea, great idea. All right, everybody, it's 9 minutes past the hour, halfway through the first break. And you all know, and nobody was really surprised, especially me. I wasn't really surprised that Eric Adams would have been indicted. Just surprised at the breadth of the charges and the specificity that that the FBI and the Justice Department, the U.S. Attorney of the Southern District, these are things that they're known for, specificity, and they've got. It looks horrible for. It looks horrible for Eric Adams. And it's a shame, and these things, when they do happen, not just Eric Adams, but other African Americans, the mayor of Detroit, who was caught out there. And it's just bad because he did it. It seemed anyway that he did it the right way. Eric Adams, he was a police officer. He started out as a recruit, he was a police officer, spent 25 years in the New York City Police Department, came in as a recruit, left as a captain of the New York City Police Department. Then he ran for the Brooklyn Borough president and won. So he was a Brooklyn borough president for several years. So all this time he's working his way up, getting the notoriety that he needs. And so he went from New York City police captain to Brooklyn borough president to New York City mayor. And it was a great story. I mean, up until now, it was a great story how Eric Adams worked his way up from the ground up and wound up being the mayor of New York City. And, to be the mayor of New York City is a bigger deal than a lot of countries. Being the mayor of New York City is a bigger deal than being a leader of another country, because New York City's budget is probably third or fourth. I mean, if New York City was a city, it would probably be third or fourth largest in the world, the budget of the city of New York. Such a massive place with millions of people. And, yes, there are cities in around the world that have larger populations than New York City. Mexico City has 25 million people. But when we talk about the city of New York, we're talking about billions and billions of dollars budget, 300,000 employees. So New York City is like a country. New York City is basically like a country. So Eric Adams, worked his way up from the bottom up. He started out as a police officer. He rose to the rank of captain. When he retired from the New York City Police Department after 25 years, he went on to he ran to be Brooklyn borough president, and which he won. And he was Brooklyn borough president for several years before he decided to move on. So it was a move on to the mayoralty of the city of New York. And it was a great story for a while. It was a great story of how he rose up through the ranks, Eric Adams. And while he was Brooklyn borough president, a lot of us believe, those of us in the news and political junkies, we kind of knew that he would eventually ascend to the mayoralty of the city of New York. So beautiful, great story until today, when the hammer was laid down. And, with the government, the United States government, Justice Department, FBI, attorney, U.S. attorneys, and they go after, they don't miss. The attorney, the U.S. attorney, the FBI, the Justice Department, they don't miss. And before they move on you, they make sure they have all their ducks in a row. They don't miss. So, it's easy to see why some people have called for his resignation and some people have, given up on the mayor. Because like the way it looks like he's guilty, from what because I watched the U.S. attorney for the Southern District, who was a black man. I watched him spell out just a piece of the 57-page, 5-count 57-page indictment of the mayor of the city of New York, Eric Adams. And I watched it and I was just like, wow, there were so many, the charges and the specificity of the evidence that there was wrongdoing. And you can't come away from that thinking that, oh, they're just picking on Eric Adams because he's black. You couldn't come away from that press conference thinking that, because the way it looked to me, and I'm a friend of Eric Adams. You know what I'm saying? I'm a friend of Eric Adams. I'm a supporter of Eric Adams. But even, I've met him, I've talked to him, I broke bread with him. And, I can't, and even with that, I couldn't come away from that meeting. I couldn't come away from that press conference by the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, who was handling this case. I couldn't come away from that thinking that, they're just messing with Eric Adams. No, this ain't just messing with Eric Adams. And, the striking thing about it was that many of these charges and some of these things they're saying that Eric Adams did go all the way back to him being the Brooklyn borough president. This is what they're talking about. This goes back to even then, So like I said, I'm a supporter of Eric Adams, but you can't walk away. I couldn't couldn't come away from that press conference without thinking like, wow, this is serious. And it is serious. And Eric Adams could go to jail and join a lot of other black folks, black leaders, mayor of Detroit, mayor of New Orleans, many of these folks who have gone to jail for wrongdoing. See, you can't do what white people do. I say that all the time. As a black man, you first of all, you shouldn't do anything. But secondly, you can't do what the white people do. It's like, for example, and I'm going to tell you after the break, I got some more information for you after the break. But, you can't, like R. Kelly, for example, Jeffrey Epstein died, the whole situation died. Prince Andrew went back to being Prince Andrew with a spanking from Queen Elizabeth before she passed on to the great beyond. And, this is the thing. See, they say, when they say to you, hey, you dress up well, or you dress well, white folks do stuff well. Because I think that Bill Clinton and Donald Trump said he didn't know the man, then pops a picture of Donald Trump kissing him on the head. So I think lots of ships would have sank if Jeffrey Epstein would have spoke up. And that's why I don't believe for a second that he committed suicide. I believe that he was killed because he was supposed to be checked on every 15 minutes by those correction officers in the Metropolitan Correctional Center, which has been closed down since Jeffrey Epstein, what I say, was killed. The place has been closed down. So the whole ball of wax has been wrapped up in a nice little bow. And it's sad because it was a great story, and it's sad. It's sad that some of these powerful black men have gone down in flames, trying to get away with stuff. Because, and you got to look at it, to be running a campaign and running an effective campaign in the city of New York probably takes a lot of money. New York is a big place. There's 5 boroughs, hundreds of square miles, thousands of square miles, the city of New York. And it's a huge place. And it takes a lot of money to run a campaign. It's a citywide campaign in the city of New York. If you want to be a council person, you just run it in your ward. Run it in the ward that you want to be the council person, the representative of. But a mayor of the city of New York probably takes a lot of money. And the striking thing about all this is they're saying that this goes back to when Donald Trump. This goes back to when Eric Adams was the Brooklyn borough president. See, because everybody was thinking, me, myself included, was thinking that this was only about him being mayor. No, this goes back. They're saying that Eric Adams, when they stopped him at some restaurant or some event he was at and asked him for a cell phone, they didn't get his personal cell phone, but they're saying that he changed the password and then said he couldn't remember. This is awful. And it's bad for the black community. It's bad because you know what they're going to say. And I'll tell you when we come back. We'll take a break and we'll come back with more of this program. It's the Ron Kelly Talk Radio Show, and it's on blog, talkradio.com, the Ron Kelly Show. Yes, indeed, I am the man. What a news cycle this is. This guy has got to go. Trump has got to go. George Floyd snuffed out by this police officer who's supposed to be serving and protecting people.
It's the Ron Kelly Show.
All right, everybody, it's the Ron Kelly Show. It's the Ron Kelly Show, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. That was a message from Amica, our sponsors, Amica and Porterfield, located at 307 Arlington Avenue in Plainfield, New Jersey. He provides safe and reliable transportation to and from your destination. 307 Arlington Avenue, Plainfield, New Jersey. Private transportation, schools, businesses, road trips, family reunions, you name it, Amica and Porterfield can handle it. 973-753-6423, 973-753-6423, 973-753-6423. Do me a favor. When you call them to fulfill your transportation needs, just let them know you heard. Yeah, I heard about you on the Ron Kelly Talk Radio Show. Also, everybody, the views and opinions expressed here are exclusively those of myself and R. Kelly Media Enterprise LLC, and are not those of my advertisers or my support team or anybody else who works behind the scenes with me, besides me, to produce the Ron Kelly Talk Radio program. 24 minutes past the hour. So it's cowardly lion. The cowardly lion, Donald Trump, does not want to. Oh, okay. Yeah, the cowardly lion, Donald Trump, does not want to debate Kamala Harris after having his ass handed to him on that stage. And I can see why he doesn't want to. I can see why he doesn't want to debate her again. I can see why, because if he debates her again, he's going to be putting a nail in his coffin, in his political coffin, so to speak. You know, so he comes out this week and says, by the way, live viewer comments show up on StreamYard. This is an example. So you click on a comment to show it on the screen. Okay. So he decided that he doesn't want to debate her again, with good reason, because she handed his behind to him in the last debate, the first and last debate, so it seems. for Trump and Kamala Harris. And yeah, so she's still got work to do now. She's making incremental. She's like 3 points ahead of Trump. I like 3 points ahead of Trump nationally. But you see what happened? Hillary Clinton beat Trump too with the popular vote and lost the Electoral College because Trump won the states with the biggest electoral prizes. And that's why Trump defeated Hillary Clinton. Everybody thought Hillary Clinton had won, including myself. I'm like, well, Hillary Clinton's the first woman president of the United States. The first, the husband and now the wife, and, history making, history breaking. And no, and Hillary was highly upset. She didn't even, and see, and that, and she didn't even come out that night to speak to her supporters. And see, in that buffets the notion that women are too emotional to be the president of the United States. So the woman would be too emotional to be the president of the United States. And what Hillary Clinton did backed that up. What Hillary Clinton did backed that up because she didn't even come out. There were hundreds of supporters gathered at the hotel. I believe it was in Washington and D.C. And she didn't come out. She was so disturbed that Trump had won. She had her, she was measuring drapes in the White House. She was measuring for drapes, new drapes in the White House, and she lost. And she didn't even have the decency to come out and speak to the people, the hundreds of thousands of people that supported her. She waited until the next day when she should have came out that day. And that supports for the naysayers of women being president of the United States, that women are just too emotionally vulnerable to be president of the United States. And what Hillary Clinton did buffeted that kind of talk. It buffeted it. So she helped that argument when she didn't come out after she lost to Donald Trump. Because she was so convinced that she won, and they were already moving back to the White House, and no, she lost. So, and that supports the notion that women are too emotional to be the president of the United States. No. So I talked a little bit earlier about Kamala Harris and how she should reach out to black men, because she's not doing, she's doing great with the black women, but she's not doing so great with the black men. And I was saying earlier in the program, before we went to break, that she should try to reach out to black men. She should do the black men's, she should do the tour. She should do the tour. She should do the barbershop tour. And that was something that a Republican pundit had suggested, that she do the barbershop tour. And I agree with that. Because again, Kamala Harris, while there are folks, the law and order folks will say, oh yeah, she was the DA of San Francisco, which is a big job. She ran for DA, she won. She ran for Attorney General of the state of California, she won. She put a lot of people in jail. And I don't have like the statistics of how many, by ethnic group, but the notion is that she put a lot of black folks in jail. That's the notion. So, and that could be why she's not doing so well with black men, because people remember, and stuff, and it may not even be entirely true, but stuff goes around, and I hear the most outrageous things he said about Kamala Harris. that people just pass around. People who are not highly intelligent, and they just pass this stuff around. You know. So she should do that. She should reach out to black men. Okay, we're halfway through the program, Mr. Ron Kelly Show. Shout out to my folks on LinkedIn and on the Ron Kelly Show on LinkedIn. Let's see how that's working out. The Ron Kelly Show on LinkedIn and on YouTube. I appreciate any and everybody who listens to the program. I definitely appreciate you. And let's see how the Ron Kelly Show is doing on LinkedIn. No, the Ron Kelly Show is not. Oh, okay, it is on LinkedIn. Okay. All right. So it's 31. Okay, it's 31 minutes past the hour. And oh wow. No wonder the sound was off. Jesus. Okay. So okay. All right. So 32 minutes past the hour of 7 o'clock is the Ron Kelly Talk Radio program. Tonight, the Dallas Cowboys. And do I have my shirt on? Yes, I do. The Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. I will be watching. Let me do that again. There you go. That's the Dallas G, that Dallas Star right there. So I will be watching the program tonight. The second I walk off the stage here, the Ron Kelly Show studio, better known as where I live. It's more cost efficient, and plus I can write it off on my taxes. Anyway, everybody, it's 33 minutes past the hour, 27 minutes remaining to the program, and so there won't be another debate. Mr. Trump has decided not to debate Kamala Harris again because he had his ass handed to him last time, and we know that. See, because he's the old feeble, because he played that old feeble Joe Biden stumble, bumble, and he was able to play that to his advantage. But now he was able to play that to his advantage, but now there's somebody in there who's younger than he is. Matter of fact, Kamala Harris could be Trump's daughter, relatively speaking. So now he's the old, feeble, stumbling, bumbling, 78, 79-year-old, And so, So Trump is still supporting Vladimir Putin. And that should be scary for a lot of people. That should scare you that Trump is supporting Russian President Putin. I mean, it scares NATO, Poland, Latvia, all of the countries, the former Soviet Union, the countries that were Poland and some of the other countries that were part of the Soviet Union at one time that are free now. They're afraid and scared to death that Trump will be elected because Trump has turned his back on NATO. And those countries are over there shaking in their boots because they know that Trump will allow Russia to go in and take those countries back because that's what Putin wants to do. He wants to rebuild the Soviet Union. And that's why he wants Trump, because he knows Trump will allow him to take back those countries, Estonia, Latvia, Poland, all of those countries in the Warsaw Pact countries, they know that Trump will allow them to allow Putin to take those countries back. And that's why many of those folks are afraid. Those countries are right on the border of Russia. It's a good thing that Russia is too busy with Ukraine to do anything with anybody else. But what happens when that's over? What happens if Trump becomes the president? He's already, he has not said that he supports Ukraine. He hasn't said it. When they asked him, does he want support? Matter of fact, during the last debate, you can check it out. Look at the videotape. Like Warner Wolf used to say, you can check it out and you'll see that when he was asked about Ukraine, he said, I want the war to be over, but he didn't say that I wanted Ukraine to win. He said, I want the war to be over. And that's scary. I mean, the Ukrainian people must be like, man, we're going to be a part of Russia again if Trump gets elected. And Estonia, Latvia, Poland, all of these countries, these NATO-backed countries, are afraid that Trump's going to be the president again because he doesn't support NATO. Look how many times he said, stuff about NATO. Look how many times. You got to make them pay. It's all about the money. You got to make them pay. They're not paying their fair share. They're ripping us off and yada, yada, yada. We're the richest country in the world. We think that, we nobody's ripping us off. That's just the Trump mantra, and see, he has a following, uneducated, non-college educated following, people who just don't know no better, who don't have the requisite, analytical in mind to say, hey, wait a minute. And so they carry around the MAGA, the MAGA nonsense. They carry it around. You hear them. You see the interviews, and you're just like, what? Things they say about Kamala Harris. Oh, Trump says she hates Jews. Her husband is Jewish. So if she hated Jews, why does she have a Jewish husband? It just doesn't make any sense. And these people in the MAGA movement can't decipher. They just don't know common sense. And that's why, the majority of Trump supporters are people who didn't go to school, who don't have the requisite analytical reasoning to say, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. And see, and these are the people, the MAGA people are uneducated. I'm not saying they're stupid or dumb, but the uneducated people who support Donald Trump because they don't know any better. A lot of them, they just don't know any better. See, because the average person is going to say, no, well, I can't support that. The average person of intelligence is going to say, I can't support that. Because, for my own reputation, I can't support that. That's crazy. They're eating the dogs and eating the cats. And, now there's a Donald Trump rap, eating the dogs, eating the cats. It's hilarious. So I've talked to somebody about it who was watching the show, listening from the European Union, somebody who was watching the show last week and mentioned it that they had saw it too. And it is very funny. You may be able to find it on TikTok. Different people are doing different versions, but there's one particular version that's really good. Okay, everybody, it's 20 minutes to go before the end of the show. We'll be back in just a moment with more. It's Ron Kelly Talk Radio Show, and it's on blogtalkradio.com, the Ron Kelly Show.com. Yes, indeed, I am the man. What a news cycle this is. This guy has got to go. Trump has got to go. George Floyd snuffed out by this police officer who's supposed to be serving and protecting people.
It's the Ron Kelly Show.
All right, we are back, everybody. It's the Ron Kelly Talk Radio program. It's 18 or 17 point something or other before the hour of 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, time for the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. I'm very interested. You see, I have, well, let me see. Yeah, you see, yeah, there you go. There's the city, the Cowboy star right there. Yes, yes. So I will be watching with a bunch of Giant fans who will be hating on me, I'm sure. But I look forward to it. Anyway, everybody, it's 17 minutes before the hour. It's the Ron Kelly Talk Radio program. So I was talking a little bit about Eric Adams and the fall from grace that, Kwame Kilpatrick was the young mayor of Detroit. Kwame Kilpatrick, who was pardoned by, of all people, Donald Trump, by the way. Kwame Kilpatrick was pardoned by Donald Trump. Donald Trump pardoned him, which I found astounding that he was able to do that. But yeah, Kwame Kilpatrick was the mayor of Detroit. Young man, mayor of Detroit, Kwame Kilpatrick, who went to prison. He's a Kwame Kilpatrick. He was a former mayor of Detroit, 2002 to 2008, and before that, he was in the Michigan House of Representatives, the 9th district, for 5 years. He resigned as mayor in 2008. He was convicted of perjury and obstruction of justice. He was sentenced to 4 months in jail and was released on probation after serving 99 days. Then he went back to jail. Then he goes back to jail, Kwame Kilpatrick, because he had, he was sentenced to 4 months in jail in 2008 and was released on probation after serving 99 days. And then 2 years later, 2 years later, he was sentenced to 18 months to 5 years in state prison for violating his probation. And he served time at the Oaks Correctional Facility in Michigan. In 2013, he was convicted they just kept coming back to the well. In 2013, he was convicted of 24 federal felony counts, including mail-in wire fraud, and racketeering. In October of 2013, he was sentenced to 28 years in federal prison. He served 76 months of his 336-month sentence, and Donald Trump commuted the sentence. Now, he didn't clear him. He just commuted the sentence, but the conviction still stands. There's a difference from when you commute a sentence to when you when you erase a conviction. I forget what they call it. But yeah, Kwame Kilpatrick, sad case, young man. Yeah, young guy. Was born 1970. He was only 50. 50 well, he's 54 now, but he was still in his 40s when all of this stuff happened. You know, it's just sad story. Sad story. R. Kelly, famous, you know, one of the greatest songwriters of all time, in prison. You know, Puffy, P. Diddy, can't even get bail, offered $50 million and still couldn't get bail. You know, still couldn't get bail. $50 million. I mean, wow. And just sad, Michael Jackson, just sad stories of how black folks, you know, hit the skids and go down. And it's not always about, now I know people, oh, the white man this and the white man that. I know there's a lot of people out there who subscribe to that stuff. But you got to do something in order for somebody to come after you. You got to do something. And R. Kelly, as much as I love R. Kelly and I still listen to his music, because I don't think his music had anything to do with his personal life. And I still listen to his music. They don't play R. Kelly music on the radio, and I don't really get that. I don't understand that. You know, who are you kowtowing to? I don't understand that, why they don't play R. Kelly. You know, and that's why I applaud TV1. TV1, the African-American owned entertainment television channel, TV1, who still show TV1, who still shows The Cosby Show. Still shows The Cosby Show. You know, and I applaud that. Because The Cosby Show was one of the greatest representations of what black folks are really about in America. See, because the whole thing with, it was all about good times. You know, good times was the representation of how black folks lived. Good times. Lived in the projects, in a 2-bedroom, 3 kids, 2 bedrooms. You know, JJ and Michael slept on the pull-out couch in the living room, and Thelma had her own room because Thelma, oh my goodness, still looks good after all these years. And Good Times was a representation of what black folks, you know, back then at that time in the 70s, Good Times was the representation of black folk. You know, living in the projects, broken elevators, winos in the hallway, Ned the wino, James always out of work. You know, every week they're struggling to try to keep their heads above water. And that was what white folks thought black life was about. That's what white folks thought black life was about until Bill Cosby came along, Dr. Alvin Toussaint, and they created the Cosby Show. So we go from James Evans to Dr. Huxtable. We go from Florida Evans, who really didn't work, who was a housewife, to Claire Huxtable, who was a lawyer. We go from the projects to a brownstone in Brooklyn, in Pineapple Street, which is a very exclusive area. And so we transform from project dwellers, always broke, to upper middle class folks, Dr. Huxtable, obstetrician, and Claire Huxtable, a corporate lawyer. With 4 children. And it changed, Bill Cosby is part of history because, yeah, and I know he did what he did, but what what the Cosby Show changed the narrative, and it changed what white folks thought about us. Because nobody, and that's why it was so popular, because nobody ever thought that black people, doctor, lawyer, 4 relatively normal kids, Brownstone in Brooklyn and Pineapple Street area, Brooklyn Heights. And nobody ever thought that black folks, shout out to Steve Mayrand, nobody ever thought when Bill Cosby, when everybody thought that it was, it was Sanford and Son, it was, the biggest representation of black folks was Good Times. Dynamite, and that's what it was. They lived in the projects in a scruffy 2-bedroom. Since Thelma had to have her own room because she was a girl, Michael and JJ slept on the pull-out couch, which I guess you can call it a living room. It was more like a studio because the kitchen part was wide open, and I don't know if that was for the show itself, for the I don't know if that was for effect, so it wouldn't be so many walls, and they wouldn't have to shoot too many scenes in different rooms, cost effective or whatever. But that's the way it was, and that's what white folks thought black folks was about: living in the projects, no money, struggling all the time to pay rent, hungry. That's what Norman Lear, that was what he put together. That was his vision, his interpretation of what black folks were about. And you see, during that time, because James Evans left the show. There was a time when Florida left the show. Esther Roll, there was times when she left the show because they wanted to, because like a lot of other people, they wanted to, thank you, Steve Mayrand, because they wanted to, Norman Lear's whole idea was to show, this was his idea of black life: Chicago, Cabrini Green projects, broken elevators, dirty hallways. That's what black existence was. That's what the black experience was in the 70s. So we fast forward to the 80s. But John Amos left the show because he didn't want to keep the dynamite and all of that stuff. He left the show, and eventually Esther Roll, who played the part of Florida, she left the show. And then Willona, who I think she passed away. Willona, it was Willona and JJ, Michael. It was Willona, JJ, Michael, Thelma, and then they brought in Janet Jackson, who wasn't Janet Jackson at that time. She was a young girl. I got something to say about her in a minute. But and that was a representation of black life. That's what millions of white folks, not to say that they were wrong, but this is what they were presented with. And millions of white folks thought that black folks lived like that. Cabrini Green projects, because when they showed the hallway scenes, dirty hallway, graffiti, fear, broken elevators, the whole 9 yards. They had it down pat, The apartment was unkept. I mean, it wasn't dirty, but you can see it. It wasn't all that clean either. It needed a paint job, and you know, and this is what white folks thought we were. This is what white folks thought that black folks were. We lived in the projects. We didn't have no money. So Norman Lear, while trying to, Norman Lear didn't, he didn't further the idea, of black folks. Norman Lear, who was the creator of Good Times. So that was the deal. So again, Florida eventually left the show. James Evans, in the person of John Amos, eventually left the show because they didn't want to portray black folks the way the writers of Good Times wanted. It wasn't really about money, not for Esther Roll. It was about the content. Big Daddy, the pimp. A couple of times they had to deal with the pimp. The pimp wanted a picture painted, so he asked JJ to paint him a picture. This guy's a pimp. There was no positive role models on that show. None. None. Yeah, Sweet Daddy. Yeah, yeah. Steve Ray Rand. Sweet Daddy. Yeah. Sweet Daddy. That was I forget his name. Great actor who passed on regrettably. I think he was the mailman on I believe he was the mailman on That's My Mama. I believe he was the mailman. That's My Mama. Another show. But Good Times was what white folks thought that we were. And along comes the Cosby Show, the 80s, early to middle 80s. Here comes the Cosby Show. Not Florida and James, but Heathcliff and Claire. Heathcliff was the obstetrician, was the doctor, and Claire is a corporate lawyer. So these people, and they live in Brooklyn Heights, and they got a townhouse, and they have money. So it's not like the broke stories, and we got to get together to rent together and all of that stuff. You didn't see that on the Cosby Show. And they didn't flaunt the money, and they didn't, because we knew that the Huxtables had money. We knew that. But they didn't flaunt it around. They didn't buy their kids whatever they wanted. They still had chores and stuff like that. And the Cosby Show was a great show, because the Cosby Show was a real representation of black folks, not Good Times, Martin, and all this stuff. No. The Cosby Show was the best representation of black folks on TV ever. Then you got to remember, like, for example, Julia with Diane Carroll back in the 70s. She was, her husband died in the army or something. So you have these black women are all single, no husband. And, and to close out the show, Janet Jackson did say that she didn't know that Kamala Harris was black. This is Janet Jackson. Oh my God. Well, okay. Well, already about 15 seconds left to the program. I want to thank you all for checking me out. We'll see you back here next Thursday for another edition of the Ron Kelly Show. So until then, I like to say that it's nice to be important, but it's more importantly nice. We may not have it all together, but together we can have it all. And go Cowboys. Sorry, Steve.